Hey guys, good morning. It is September 10th. I wish it was November. I'd get out of this hot weather. September 10th, 2020. Some stocks to watch this morning. Yesterday was a pretty good day. I accumulated a little Tesla, a little Zoom, some of the stuff that I felt was going to have the biggest rebound. And we got a nice snapback. I was accumulating all these stocks with very small increments. 15, 20 shares. Every time it dipped a little lower, 15, 20 shares. Kept adding, and then obviously we got the reversal. My last ad on Tesla was a nice ad at 315 in aftermarket. So we look at SPY now, and nothing unusual within the time frame of what we've seen. We started to penetrate the channel a little bit yesterday, pre-market I believe it was, or the prior day. We kind of bounced right off the 50 as expected. I have a 45 up here. I think it's a little bit more accurate, so they're both pretty much in line with each other. So nothing unusual so far other than the volume that we've seen. If you look at the SPY and kind of stretch out the chart here, you can see that this is the first big volume day we've had prior to this dip back here. But the shape is very similar, right? So we have the channel line here, and then we get way extended above the channel line. And obviously the higher you get extended, the further off, the further or the more intense and the higher trajectory the pullback will be. So very similar pullback here where you get above and then you snap back through and then hit the bottom trend line. We did not penetrate the bottom trend line there. And from a horizontal support level, we popped back up and then retested it, and then we were back up grinding higher again. I'm not saying that's going to happen here. The higher you get, obviously, numerically, the harder that is to replicate. But the shape is very similar. You have this extended move, almost parabolic, and then snap back sharp, and then retest the channel. Extended move, almost parabolic, snap back sharp, retest the channel. And you can look at the volume was actually a bit higher in the prior sell-off, which was back in mid-June. You can see the selling was a little bit higher, but we did have some pretty intense buying in the following days. So the buying here is a little bit less aggressive, probably a little bit more concern here as we're higher in the channel level, obviously, and higher numerically. But you've had 3 heavy days of selling with a reversal finally coming yesterday. So first bounce we always say is the best bounce. And we got the best bounce, I think. Yesterday was a pretty decent bounce. The other day, intraday, was not bad either. So, 342 is obviously going to be a channel marker line that we're looking at over the next few days on the Dow, or on the spiders, I would say. You look at a 10-minute chart that I've been kind of using as a reference. You can see we kind of had this little channel line that we finally broke yesterday, the pivot, and then we shot up after hours. We kind of drifted down, and now we're kind of coming back up to that. So I would say, obviously, the 341.80 area and 342 is going to pose resistance. If we start to push through there, we're probably going to make a run into the 344s. That shouldn't be too much of a problem, but right now the market's trying to figure out, is this the beginning of something bigger, or is this another great buying opportunity? And we look at stuff like Tesla. I think Tesla is going to run into some trouble here as it gets into the 390s. They do have this battery day thing coming up, I believe. I'm not sure what day that is. Hopefully that's not today. Actually, it might be today. I got to look at the date on that. But just to make some announcement, when you have stocks that are this strong, and obviously the pullback was immense. I mean, it's very sizable pullback. But that mentality still stays there. This is a strong stock and could go higher. And we're using the 20-day moving average as a reference point, which probably gets you into you're right about there right now, 387, 388 area. You could stretch back above there. And then obviously your next resistance level would be just under 400, maybe 401 if you get breaking above there. A stock we've been talking about for a while, we call Donkey Kong. DraftKings, which chart has looked great, it's channeling. Well, it's starting to break above that channel now. You made this kind of triple top up in here, and we're pushing through that in pre-market. We're above that. So that's going to be a good day trade scalp intraday on DraftKings, probably with the NFL opening up tonight. Nice volume on the Michael Jordan news. They obviously sold into it with the market pulling back, but we never broke the channel line. In fact, we haven't closed below the 45-day moving average. We keep putting tails through, tail. So obviously you have a point of reference on your close, which would be, 36 and change. We said 35 was the closing support. We got down as low as 34 intraday and change, but we never closed around there. That stock looks interesting. Zoom, I sold, left some money on the table there, unfortunately. That is another one that had fantastic earnings blowout that's been on a tear. So obviously the bounces are going to be stronger in some of these. I believe the resistance area now is around 406. LMPX is one we've been talking about. Still looks good. In fact, it's completely ignored this market sell-off. And this looks like something's going on here with this conglomerate of used car dealerships, maybe this economy. And now you're above the gap area on the bottom end and looking to fill the gap area in the top end, which is somewhere around $20 a share. So I think you got a little more wiggle room in LMPX. And like I said, the last few days, it's kind of ignored this market sell-off and it's making some nice cup and handles to the high side. JNCE, we talked about too. Something about this stock, it was weak obviously with the sell-off, but this has been resilient within this time frame here. You can see these are kind of goofy candles here, but we didn't really get below that. We haven't closed below that 645-ish area, so looking for a little bit more there. Stitch Fix in the news, SFIX. This chart looked really interesting. And I like this fundamentally, but I missed it on this huge pullback. I think it was just off my radar. But this is starting to look interesting too, because now you're kind of getting this little area of, well, we could even put it this way, but you're kind of attacking this uptrend resistance area. We're getting ready to, but in the last few days, you've kind of been bouncing up against this wick. And now you're coming back into that area as well again. And the volume's been very active lately, holding the 20-day moving average. So I'm not saying we chase this, but maybe some accumulation at the low end if it pulls back is in order. And then we kind of hold this channel here, which probably coincides with the 45-day moving average. And your stop is somewhere around 25.26 on a close. Looking for maybe at least a channel line attack and probably higher, 33s or 34s, just by the shape of the MACD. But you're getting a little bit overbought here, so maybe some consolidation is in order again on that one. Let's see what else we have for today. Oil took a little bit of a beating, so you might get a little bit of action in UCO. Gold, I said, needed to move really quickly in our little podcast we did over the next few days, and we got that. So gold is now stabilized and not looking like it wants to roll over like it did the last few days. It looked very suspect. So DraftKings could be really interesting one to watch. SFIX could be, Stitch Fix looks interesting here today too as well. Let me see what else we have on the docket here. 3M I thought looked interesting. Let me see what else we have. We can maybe give some target prices. JNUG looks a little bit stretched here from the rebound in the 130s. Now you're getting up to around 155. It's had trouble in this area, a little bit higher than that. Wayfair, for some reason, that's the one we're going to close out on. Wayfair. Don't like it fundamentally, but this thing is kind of moving within this Fibonacci range. Back to the pivot point, and if I get this out of here, kind of clean this up a little bit. Let's see, you can see that Wayfair, something is going on here. It's been super resilient. I know it had a huge pullback, which I kind of expected. In fact, it got a lot higher than I expected it would. But if you look at the intraday channel chart on a 5-day 20, there's something about Stitch Fix here. About Wayfair that is. This is definitely like computerized buying, programmed buying, and then now you're kind of creating this pattern in here where it's starting to break above this wedge. Ignore this moving average here, but we're gapping up in pre-market at around 268 by 270. I think it's up 8 or 9 points if I'm not mistaken. Let me see where Wayfair is at. But this could be a good intraday scalp. Yeah, it's up 10 points. So I'm not sure we want to chase it, but some of these momentum stocks, they just don't slow down. Target price would be 280 on that, so that gives you another 11 points to the upside. 280 would be your target. So just keep an eye on this intraday. It starts to form some wedges and pop. That looks really interesting as well. So a couple stocks to watch this morning. Kind of neutral in the market here. 342 is definitely an achievable level intraday on SPY to retest. If it can't get through that area, let me see where we are in pre-market. We're like 340, 70 by 340, 80. We might have a problem with a little bit of a pullback, but a lot of FOMO here probably. If people said, okay, this is the pullback and we didn't continue to the downside, I'm going to miss it if I don't get back in. So you can have a lot of different energies fighting here. Definitely the market's put in a solid high, especially on the Qs. So, getting back above the 348 area is going to be very difficult on SPY. But then again, you have a lot of energy that's going to come in on the lower channel line here too. So if we do start to pull back and we break down a little bit lower, I think your support levels are probably going to be somewhere around 336, 337. I'm not sure I see that happening today, but just keep that in mind. 336, 337 be support, and then 342.40 is your resistance to the upside.